Hey YouTube. Ooh, good to see you again. Adam here, coming to you once again from the smoking lounge here in the corner of Rust Belt Pipes HQ, the shed in my backyard. Hope that you're all doing well. Cheers. This is the video for this month. This is the end of February 2026. And yeah, I'm excited to be here with you. We have a couple of things to talk about. One is a cigar that I'm going to smoke and tell you about. And then there's been something on my mind, which we're also going to talk about, which is like, what are the essential resources for me, or maybe men in general, but I'm going to speak about it from my own perspective. But first of all, let me crack into this. And these videos, because they're once a month, are of indeterminate length. So this could be 20 minutes. It could be 30 minutes. Who knows? So grab yourself a cigar, a pipe, maybe a drink. We're just going to hang out, smoke along with me if you like. And yeah, we're just going to kind of chill here as we might if you were here with me in person. If there was another chair on the other side of this table. Let's pretend that that's you. And we'll just kind of go with that. I do kind of wish that there was somebody else here, because I think that this is going to be a really fantastic cigar. Took the little paper thing off, by the way. This is my favorite cigar brand of all time, Aladino. And this is their limited edition, cover the barcode, I guess, limited edition Sumatra Toro size, 6x52. These I got from my good friend Chuck over at Maison Edwards, my local tobacconist in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And I've already had one of these, but I'm going to have another. Because the first one was, I was in the shop and kind of hanging out. I have, by the way, I use this Zycar thing. It was a impulse purchase, but it's proven to be pretty nice. The only thing is it's kind of annoying to like get centered, but whatever. When I'm at the shop at Chuck's, which I often am, I use a little punch thing that I have on my key ring. This thing, this little cigar puncher with the ejector, that's pretty nice, and it fits in the key ring. Anyway, so this is, I think I have one of these left in my very modest humidor. And yeah, these are Sumatra. I will not ever claim to be a very knowledgeable cigar person. I don't even really consider myself to be a cigar guy, to the extent that many people are. But by the same token, I don't know that I would consider myself a pipe guy. I consider myself a pipe smoker, an enthusiast of Briar and Tobacciana for sure. But I don't know. A lot of people know off the top of their heads. They know pipe makers and shape charts and blend components and all this sort of stuff. Like they can just memorize it. I don't know. I just kind of like smoking pipes and cigars, of course. So this Sumatra one, it's a limited edition from Aladino. I think it's an annual release, but correct me if I'm wrong. And it only comes, to my knowledge, in one size, or at least in this most recent release, only came in one size, the Toro, which is a much larger cigar than I typically smoke. This is probably not quite twice the size. 4.5 by 48 is my preferred size. It is often called the Rothschild size. So the gauge of this, it's actually about right, but the length is quite a bit more. But that's fine. because we have plenty of things to chat about here as we enjoy whatever it is you are smoking and drinking. I thought, given the flavor profile of this cigar, that Guinness would be appropriate. It's also my favorite beer of all time. Wonderful. All right. Well, let's let this kind of wear itself in for a minute and kind of give you some updates on what's been going on. As you can see, you can't see my breath because today, amazingly, it is above freezing. It's in the low 40s Fahrenheit, so it's not warm, but considering the temperatures that we've been having for the last month or so, we had a ton of snow and stuff. It actually feels really nice. I do have this jacket on, again, mainly because in these videos it's become my habit to wear this ensemble, but I actually wouldn't really need a jacket. I don't have my heater going. So the weather has picked up in temperature, which is really great. It has meant that the flock of Rust Belt chickens has picked up as well in terms of their egg laying pace. So for the last week, we've been getting 12.5 eggs daily, which is just way too many for my wife and I and our baby, who does not yet eat solid food, and my parents and my in-laws. It's really too many. So today, actually just before coming out here, I whipped up 2 half-gallon ball jars full of pickled eggs. And I'm doing an experiment. So I bought our local big box store is called Menards. It's just a normal kind of do everything store, kind of like a hardware store, a little bit of grocery. You can buy lumber there and a toilet and whatever, but also candles and books. And anyway, they were selling a case of 6 half-gallon ball jar canning jars for like, I don't know, $15 or something. So I picked up a 6-pack and I made 2 jars. And they also had a pre-made mix for kosher dill pickles. And I've never made dill pickled eggs. So that's what I did. I made up the packet, split it between the 2 jars, chucked in the eggs. We'll see how that goes. Normally, I don't know, we're talking about pickled eggs. Hey, but this is what these videos now monthly are going to be like. We'll talk about the cigar, of course, but I'm going to tell you about other things all in one video. Normally, when I make pickled eggs, it's a mix of like salt and sugar, vinegar, and then like garlic and stuff. No dill. So this will be an adventure. And it's got, the packet, of course, has some coloring in it, in the powder. So the eggs are already starting to turn like a sickly yellow-green, as you know, if you've ever seen a jar of dill pickles, it's that color. All right, so we're getting started here on this cigar. And we'll keep coming back to this. I'm not going to record the entire thing, but I'm also not going to cut. So maybe we'll get about halfway by the end of this video. So getting it started, super easy. My humidor is a little bit less humid than maybe it should be. We can just chalk that up to my laziness and not being fastidious in checking the temperature or the humidity. It does have a little gauge on the front, but now with my office, it's behind a closed, anyway, So this is a little bit drier than it should be. We do have a little bit of inconsistency there with the burn, but that happens in pretty much, I I don't know, half the cigars I smoke. It'll work itself out, or we can top it up. Nice and cool. Great flavor. It's definitely more full-bodied than my typical smoke, which is the vintage selection from Aladino, the Corojo. So it's fuller, but it's not like super, super dark. Thus far, no spice or anything like that. Kind of leathery. Good. It's a good cigar. Pairs very nicely with Guinness. So anyway, yeah. So I made pickled eggs, and the nice thing, the really nice thing about having these chickens is it's an excuse to go over to the farm multiple times a week. So I split the egg pickup between my father-in-law. They live 5 minutes from the farm, and then us is about 15, 20 minutes. But I love it out there. I love it out there. 40 acres of just basically nothing, except for a chicken coop and an old house and stuff like that. So it's nice to be out there. Plenty of work to do over at the farm this summer. You know, the old farmhouse, it's not really livable, but we are going to fix the roof this summer, I believe. So I'll be doing some roofing work and pulling down old roofing and installing new metal roofing, all that kind of thing. Which, you know, I'm not, as I've said on this channel before, I'm not really a handyman. But my father-in-law is, so I'll just do what I'm told. And that'll be that, you know. Just cleaning up the burn line here on the one side. This is something I learned how to do from Simon in one of his many videos. You just kind of get it to where it's black and then quit. You don't want to overdo it, and it will, yeah, it'll kind of fix itself, which is great. In terms of Rust Belt Pipes stuff, now that the weather is warming up, I'm going to get out here. I've already cleaned everything. So I got all the mouse crap off the desk and off the workbench. Got up the old shavings from the floor. I've got a good amount of briar block. I've got everything that I need. I just need to come out here and get back to making pipes. It's still been doing orders like every month. You know, there'll be like 2 or 3 orders, mostly of pipe supplies. So filters, pipe cleaners, tenons, and some stems. I had a special order for some stems. So that's been good. Just kind of keeping things active. And my hope is, we'll see how this works out, but my hope is to still to upgrade the wood lathe to a metal lathe, because a lot of my hesitation still when it comes to pipe making is like my discomfort using the wood lathe. It's just there's more room for error, and I don't have the time that it would take to get really, really good and comfortable, like put my hand in there and all that kind of stuff. I can do it. Like I've made pipes, obviously I can do it, but the metal lathe process is like you're a little bit more removed from the thing that is spinning a million miles an hour very close to your face. So I'm going to keep working with the wood lathe, and I'll still be making pipes this year with it. But I'm saving my pennies, my Rust Belt pennies. And we'll see. I'm going to miss out on, I think, on all the pipe shows again this year. I still have never gone to one. But now with the new job, more flexibility, much more flexibility. I'm really hoping to get to one. I might get to one this year, but I don't know. We'll see. Chicago, I don't know when Chicago Pipe Show is. Maybe it already happened. This is, you know, I'm just out of the loop on these things. I'll try to get to one. But I can't do Muletown, unfortunately. But I'd like to make it to a show. So here's the thing I wanted to talk about today. This has been on my mind for a week or two. And it kind of came out of a conversation that I had with a friend. Um, and ice. And it was about like what are the fundamental resources that you care about. And it, like we kind of got into it through a weird roundabout, whatever, which doesn't matter. But I think as a man, which I am, there are a couple of fundamental like resources, and I'm using resources, but I don't know if I really mean resources. But that's the word I'm going to use. That's the word we use in our conversation. That are really dear to me, and that I want to kind of gain and hold, but can also be invested. And so here's the two specifically that we were talking about: time and space. Time and space. And we were like really up in the clouds on this one, but I'm going to bring it to you and see what y'all think. So we're not talking about money here. Time and space are the two main ones that we were talking about. And it really got me thinking, and a lot of our conversation was about this space. My little back of the shed, my 8x5, let's call it, Rust Belt Pipes HQ. And this chair in the corner here, which is the smoking lounge. We had this great conversation about how, especially as a man, and maybe this is universal for all people, but I've never been anything but a man, and so I can't speak to their, anyone else's experience. For me, it's so important for me to have space, a physical space that is mine, and for many people, and for a long time, as I was coming up, that was a car. And so I was renting an apartment, and so like I lived there, and I had my stuff. Like that was kind of home for me in a way, in a sense. But I didn't have control over that space. I couldn't paint the walls or, rip up the carpet or anything like that. It wasn't really mine. I didn't have control. But in my car, I had control. I had space, and still do in the truck. And if I wanted to, I could put out some fuzzy dice under the mirror, right? Or have a certain air freshener, or I could put a seat cover on, or whatever, It was my space. And in the years, getting older, getting married, buying a house, buying this house, it's been really interesting to navigate my need for my own space with having a shared household with my wife and now our daughter and our dog, of course, but he goes wherever he wants. So in the house, I have an office. And it's always been an office for me since we bought the house. That's where I work. That's where I read. That's where I do my hobby stuff. And it's really, really important to me. And maybe I'm just like, in the past couple of weeks since I had this conversation with this guy, realizing how important that space is to me, that I feel very protective about it. And that I go in there and I can close the door, and that is my space. Recently, I kind of did a little renovation in there. So I ripped out some old shelving that I had put up when we moved in. And now I have some nice like IKEA stuff, and I moved my humidor into a cabinet that can be closed off and stuff. And it's nice to have that space, to have that control. And this space also serves a similar but different function. The office in the house is my space, and I can do pretty much everything that I want in there, but I can't smoke in there. Now, between us, I don't know that I would want to smoke in my house anyway. And you could do whatever you want. And I see the appeal. But I also see reasons why I might not want to have that in my house. It is kind of a bummer when I want to. Let's say it's after lunch, I'm working, I'm doing my job, I've got my screens up. Would it be cool to have a pipe? Yeah, it would be really great. But I can't do that. But out here in this, again, 40 square feet space, I can smoke. I got internet out here, but for climate control, I could come out here year round and work. I could bring my laptop out here and do all that. And this space, just like my home office, is so important to me, and I feel very protective of it. My wife and I have had many conversations where I say, look, this is not storage space. We got storage under the workbench, right? But in this space where I need to be able to work and to sit when I'm doing stuff out here, this is not we're not putting bins of stuff out here. We're not putting Christmas decorations out here, right? This is my space, and I need that. And so in this conversation that I was having a few weeks ago, we were kind of wondering why, because my friend, and if you're watching this, how's it going? We were kind of wondering why that is so important to us. Maybe that's a universal thing, but he and I are both men, and so we were kind of ascribing that to being a man thing, but it could be a human thing. Although I will say that my wife, though she has had for multiple years a room available to use as her space, office space, hobby space, whatever, she's not chosen to do that. And she uses, she sits in the living room or the dining room or whatever to work. So I sense that it's not as important to her. Maybe it's not true for all women, but for my wife, it is certainly true that it's not as important as it is to me. So my friend suggested that it actually wasn't about space, or isn't about space, that it's about control. And many things, both good and very negative, have been said about mankind's need to control. And so he and I had a little bit of a debate, because I wasn't convinced that my need for space is all about control. But as I've been sitting here talking to you, I have said that word, control, a bunch. I want to be able to do what I want to do when I want to do it in my space. I don't want to walk in and have something not be where I left it. That's control. It's a desire to control. Now, there's an added element for me, which is that I am an only child. And much has been said about only children, to be sure. But I feel like my space, having things the way that I want them, in here, having the machines set up on the workbench the way that I want it, having this table where I want it and how I want it, having all the shelves exactly right, it gives me a sense of peace, a real sense of peace. When I walk in here and I look at things and I look at how, every machine is color-coded with a piece of duct tape. And the plugs that route under the workbench and up into a little cable holder on the wall have that same duct tape for all of the machines, so I know where everything goes. That feels good. That feels good. And I'm not an organized person. But in my space, being able to figure out what paradigm I want to use and employ that and have it work. And if it doesn't work, to have the freedom to change it up, that's really great. So for me, as an only child, and maybe for you, if you're not an only child, it's even more prevalent, because so much extra is shared if you have siblings or had siblings. So I don't know. What do you think? Do you value having a dedicated space where you are king of the castle, where you alone can decide what happens, where things go, and what you do when you're in that space. So the other one, moving on from space, is time. That time is a real fundamental resource for the two, well, us as men, the two of us who were talking about it, but probably for all people, in the sense that one, time is not a renewable resource. Once it's gone, and there's no getting it back. And kind of different from space, we don't always get to decide for ourselves or even for our own family how that resource is spent. So the way that I was kind of talking about this was this recent job change that I've had. So I recently changed from a job that was very strictly 9 a.m. start to 5 p.m. end. And 3 days a week, basically, I was in an office building on a university campus at a desk. I had 2 screens. And I kind of needed to just, that was my allocation of work. You got to be here from this time to this time, and you have to be as productive as possible between those 2 times. And so while I was there, I was not in control of how my time was spent. Right now, of course, I have my calendar, and I can say, okay, I need to meet with this person, but during this time, I'm going to do this other thing, whatever. But I was giving my time, investing my time into my employer, essentially. And the trade is I'm giving my time in return for money and benefits, right? Maybe a little prestige, but it's mostly for money and benefits. And my boss could tell me, do this, don't do this. I need you to spend 2 hours doing that. Don't spend more than 5 minutes doing this, right? That kind of thing. So it was very dictated, which is not necessarily a bad thing. That's the way that jobs are, right? So my new job is not time locked, I guess. I have hours. I generally log on around 8:30, 9 o'clock. It's fully remote, so I don't go into an office anymore. And I generally end around 4:30, 5 o'clock. But between those times, I'm in essentially full control, there's that word again, over what I do. Because the nature of my work is very different. I'm essentially, as I told my wife, a professional networker now. It's partnerships. So I reach out to people, or they reach out to me. We discuss, we dream, we plan, we say, well, we could do this, or maybe you want to try that. But it's not, like, I'm not chained to the desk. In fact, most weeks, there's one day a week where I'll actually go back to the campus where I used to work. And I'll find a space, it's all public space. I'll find a space, throw out my computer, and I'll work from there. And it's great. If I want to go get a coffee, I can get a coffee. If I want to go to the gym in the middle of the day, I'm free to do that. And I really should do that, because having a baby is rough on the belly. But it's been really great, because one of the fundamental things that I've gained back is time. Because I no longer commute. And my commute was 40 minutes, sometimes an hour if there was traffic. So my work day, was about 8 hours, but then an hour on either side of that, I'm gone, in that case, 10 hours a day maybe. Or, as was often the case at that job, if I had to work a little bit late or a little bit early, I could be a 12-hour day away from home, and that really bugged me. It wore on me, stressed me out, gave me kind of anxiety. It certainly wasn't good for my wife, especially with a new baby, me being gone. But now in this new job, one, I'm home all the time, and I just go into my space, my working space, and I do my job. But I come out, we have coffee, or we'll, have lunch together, that kind of stuff, and there's no commute. So that regaining of that resource of time has been really, really good. Now, it's not always going to be exactly that. Like, in the week after next, I'm going to Nashville. It's a work thing. I'll be there for 3 days. And I'm going to be on pretty much from the moment I wake up till the moment I go to sleep, and it'll be really early start and really late end because it's a conference. But that's really exciting because it's a brief period of intensity, and then I'll come home and it'll be chill again. And being able to dictate how I spend my time to a large extent is really, really great. So our conversation about this, my friend and I, it kind of ended with those two resources are actually more important to us than money. That, especially as men, am I any happier now than I was in my very first job where I was making, I think, $25,000 a year? I was not making very much, and I lived in an expensive part of New England. No, I'm not really any happier. I have more stuff, maybe. It doesn't make me any happier. You can just do other things. I can make pipes now, right? I couldn't do that then. But if I lost my space, or a space that I could call my own and control, it would make me less happy. And in fact, if I think back over the past few years, I've really been happier in times where I had a space beyond my car, as I mentioned before. And I'm noticeably happier now that I have a bit more control over my time, that I've gained back time. I can invest it in things that I just didn't have time to invest in other things. I can go on walks now in the middle of the day or go to the gym, like I said, where I definitely could not before. And that does make me happier. It makes me less stressed. I feel less of a sense of urgency than I did. And kind of actually, I'll say as I'm saying that, the need to move quickly and the sense of urgency that I really don't like, I think may have come from the fact that I felt like my time was not my own. And because I had less of it, really, I didn't have 24 hours. I didn't even have 16 or 12 hours, right? I had a subset of my waking hours. I felt like I had to do stuff rapidly, fast. Everything's on fire. I got to move. It's because I didn't have as much time to allot to that stuff, to move more slowly, because I had less time to allot to that stuff. Now, I have more time. I can come out here on a Saturday afternoon. What is it? 5 o'clock on a Saturday. I spent most of the day with my wife and our baby. We went out to lunch, went to a couple of stores. I burned boxes. I made pickled eggs. There's nothing that I need to rush to do. And boy, that is a load off. I tell you what, it really, really makes me happier not to have to rush. So, that's kind of a recap of that conversation. But I'd love to hear what you think about especially these two resources of time and space. How do you deal with those resources? Are they important to you? Maybe you don't care about space. Maybe there's something else, some other resource that is more important to you than having your own space. I'd love to hear what that is, and I'd love to hear whatever your thoughts may be. Let's go back to this cigar. So let's say we're a third of the way. It's definitely amped up a little bit in terms of its flavor profile. A bit more bold, a bit spicier. And I will say it's gone from kind of a musky leathery at the very beginning to more of a woody flavor. Not in a bad way. It is very smooth. It is a rich, creamy smoke. Yeah, it's really nice. Creaminess especially is coming through now. It's nice. This, I think, not this cigar, but the first time I smoked one of these, which was, 2 weeks ago, I think, was my first real experience, I think, with a Sumatran cigar, with Sumatra leaf. As I've said before, I'm a Corojo mostly smoker, the Aladino, the vintage selection. Habano Vintage Selection, whatever. That's primarily the cigar that I smoke. And it's a much more mild, sort of floral even. Whereas this is definitely a more leathery, more woody flavor. But it's nice. It's a nice cigar. It is cracking a little bit. I don't know if you can see there. It's kind of coming loose. That's my thing. That's not the cigar's thing. It's because, as I mentioned before, my humidor's a little drier than it's supposed to be. But that's okay. I will be on Monday afternoon, I believe, back at the shop. Oh, we'll pick up a Boveda. Is it Boveda or Bovita pack? The little humectant packages you put in your thing. I've heard it both ways. How do you say it? What's the right one? I don't know. Maybe I should just look to see if they have a YouTube. It is nice. Definitely a more substantial cigar than I'm used to. But not bad. Well, we're at 36 minutes, so I think I'm going to call it here. And I'll finish the cigar while I watch some videos. I've been really bad at keeping up with other YTPC folks. I have fallen into a rabbit hole around this new job in men's fashion. Ugh. It's not a thing that I have ever cared about, is wearing clothes. I mean, I care about wearing clothes, but like the clothes that I wear. But with this new job, because I'm essentially a professional networker, going to conferences, meeting with kind of high-powered people at universities primarily, I do need to wear nicer things. And, even this is, I think, like an Eddie Bauer something I got for Christmas. Like, it's kind of old. It's, what do they call that? Pilling. This is like a flannel zip-up dealio. And so, like, most of my YouTube time, which normally would be pipe stuff, I've been, and I can't even believe I'm saying this, but, like, watching videos about socks and pants and ties and stuff like that. Which has been kind of interesting. I don't know. And maybe this is like, I'm 35. Like, I'm starting to kind of get to the point in my life where I want to dress more like a grown-up, I guess. And I definitely have a grown-up job. I still feel like a kid. I feel like a teenager still in a lot of respects. But I have to put forward to the world a better image of myself, both for my own sake, but also for the sake of the company that I now am employed by. So I thrifted some blazers and I bought a cardigan. So, basically I'm turning into a grandfather or something. No, it's cool. Like, it's cool. It's neat to look at stuff. It's just one more thing to spend money on. And for me, it's not like a hobby. Like, I know that menswear as a phenomenon can be a real, like, deep hobby for many people. It's not for me. I'm just trying to dress a little bit nicer for this job. But there's a long way to say I have been watching pipe videos very much. I've been watching videos about clothes, which is still hard for me to say. Anyway, I'm going to finish this cigar. This is the Aladino Sumatra limited edition. It's very nice. That's the Toro size. If you can find it, get it and smoke it. It's good. Thanks for listening to me ramble on for 40 minutes. I hope that you had a chance to smoke something and maybe have a beverage with me. This is how these videos are going to be in the future. So they're going to be longer. They're going to be more rambly, but I'll come with a topic like I came with today. We'll review something every time. And that's what you can expect here. As I get back in the shop, now that the weather is warming up, we'll also show off some pipes. I'll give you the Rust Belt Pipes update and all that kind of good stuff. And you will also see pipes from other pipe makers return. So I've got a line on a couple of folks who are making pipes but not really selling their pipes online anywhere. I was able to do that for Azura pipes for Joseph for a while, and I'd like to get back to that. Just with the baby and the job change and the new year and all that kind of stuff, it kind of fell away for a bit, but we'll come back with a vengeance. Thank you for watching this. If you've made it this far, I'd love to hear your thoughts on anything that we talked about. Drop them down in the comments, and of course, you can always find me over on Instagram as well. I'll see you in a month, everybody. Bye.